Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where connections bloom like sunflowers. Today, we're diving into a delightful conversation with the inspiring Troy Hadeed, a masterful author, Zen yoga teacher, and social entrepreneur. With a heart wide open, Troy is on a quest to make the divine more accessible and help humanity realize its intricate web of connection. So grab your yoga mat or your notepad, because this episode is a journey you won't want to miss. Troy, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Pleasure to be here, such an honor to be here. And we don't often talk about what it means to, like this, the source of your show, this idea of business led by heart. It's such a beautiful thing that isn't often spoken of. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. And I'm really excited to dive into our conversation, especially with your book, Love. So, I mean, that's exactly what we're all about. But the first question I always like to ask is, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
Yeah. I'll first say that the book is called My Name is Love. So it's a little different. A heart-led business to me is a business that at its very priority and agenda serves something bigger than itself. And sure, we need to generate profit to do that. But if we ask a question, well, what is the absolute priority of this business? Is it to make profit? Well, that's not a heart-led business.
Right.
Is it to have a positive impact on society and the people around us and serve something greater than its own identity? And does it have to make profit to do that? That's a heart-led business,
I like that. That's great. And I like that distinction between, is it built to make a profit, or is it built to be socially conscious and help people? Yeah. And really, you can't really help people if you're not making a profit either.
Yeah. And to be honest, sometimes that's my struggle, because you can't be too much heart, and then you don't have sustainability. So you don't have a sustainability to support the work you want to do in the world. So you really have to find that balance, and it's not easy, a lot of the time.
And I think a lot of people think that being a heart-led business makes you kind of a doormat, meaning people can kind of take advantage of you. Do you find that to be the case at all?
For me, yeah. If you ask me about my weakness as an entrepreneur, that is my weakness as an entrepreneur. We're running a yoga studio now for over 10 years. And I have now had to step back completely, and we just hired a general manager to come on board, and I tell her now she's my boss. Because I know that, especially in that realm, that I don't have what it takes. I'm too much heart. I'm too emotionally invested in this community to have it actually be a profitable business. And my decision has been to step back.
Wow.
It's not that you remove your heart, but like I once had a business advisor tell me, she worked in the corporate world for 3 decades. And she came to advise us on how we move forward. And what she identified was, in the corporate world, they have to take this structure that is driven by profit and try and infuse more love, more compassion, more community, more understanding. And in our case, we have a community that is driven by love, compassion, understanding, and community, but it's not sustainable.
Right.
So we now have to do the reverse, is we have to take that community and ask, well, how do we infuse the structure, infuse the profitability so that that profit and sustainability could drive the work we want to do anywhere, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you come up with or the recognition that you're the bottleneck or you're the problem in the business and you needed to hire a general manager?
Yeah. I guess introspection and
Mhm.
accountability. And this business that I'm in right now, which I don't even consider business, it's my life, my community, my family.
Yeah.
It really hasn't been profitable for quite some time. You know, we've just been kind of breaking even and getting by.
Sure.
But before that, I ran a recycling business, and we collected waste cooking oil and recycled waste cooking oil and exported for biofuel to Europe. And when
Okay.
I first started that business, everyone thought I was absolute lunatic.
Yeah.
No one believed in anything, but that was the most profitable business that I've ever put my hands on, invested my time in.
Wow.
And it was the most financially stable me as an individual has ever been. And I decided I was going to sell that business, and I
Mhm.
did. Um, and it was a decision I had to make because I realized that I could not take that business where it could possibly go. Because for me as an individual, it was all one big family. I was a doormat. I
Um,
was too soft. I was too much heart, and not enough of that structure, accountability, that we need for a business to actually be profitable and sustainable. And I think it's just so important for someone to realize, well, what is my strength and what is my weakness?
yeah.
Because we all have them. And I think for me, I acknowledge that structure, rigidity, accountability, that is my weakness. That
Mhm.
is not my strong point. And while I want to lead businesses that are heart led and that serve something greater than ourselves, that for business to do that, it needs a structure, it needs a
Yep.
profitability. And therefore, we have to find a balance. And if I can't bring that balance, I have to bring someone else in who can bring that balance.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
how tough was it to bring somebody in and hand over your business to somebody else to run?
Yeah. For me, it wasn't hard. And I mean, it's still relatively new, but it's not hard. I know I have to take a completely hands off approach. They know I have a lot to offer. They know I'm in core of it. Um, but at the same time, when it comes to making hard decisions, I have to take a hands-off approach if I want to see the business and community, which is what it is to me, right? If I want
Right.
to see the community grow into what it can be and be profitable and sustainable, I mean, I've tried. Clearly,
Yeah.
I was in a therapist, talking to my therapist 2 days ago, and she said, "Well, do I have grief around it?" I was like,
Mhm.
"No." She's like, "Am I worried that my community views me as a failure in that aspect?" And I was like, "I'm not, because I have failed them.
Mm.
And we're human. We make mistakes. We all have our strong points, our weaknesses. And I have
Yep.
no problem saying that in that aspect, I have failed. And
Mm.
there needs to be a balance, and certain things need to be infused into the operations and the business that I have not been able to bring. I think there's a big part of it as an entrepreneur is recognizing that there's some things I'm good at and there's some things I can't do.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have to step back and take a hands-off approach, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a very difficult thing for entrepreneurs to do. I know it was very difficult for me to
Yeah.
when I gave over control to a general manager as well in my fitness business. And but when you do that, how freeing did you feel, or do you feel now, having that responsibility kind of taken off your shoulders?
Well, we're still in the space of transition.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think I'm still very much involved trying to bridge gaps and connect those gaps.
Okay.
But I'll tell you how I look at it is that the business had come to a point, the yoga student community as a business had come to a point, or is at a point, where there was no sustainability in this. This was
Mhm.
not a life I wanted for myself or our teachers or our community, right? So it's going to fold and fail and
Yeah.
close down, or changes have to be made. And if it works out and we find longevity and sustainability and profitability, and the community grows to what I know it can be, well, then I have to give everything I can for a little while to see that happen. And
Yeah.
when it does happen, I will be really, really happy. Um, and I will feel that freedom. And if it can't happen and it doesn't happen, well, at least I know I gave it everything, you know?
Yeah.
And in that also, it's a sense of peace.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I can definitely relate to that.
yeah,
That is that's great. Now,
yeah.
how did you find a general manager that has the operational, fortitude, but also the heart as well? Because I'm sure you need somebody with some heart, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah,
still be in a
yeah.
heart led.
A lot of heart.
Yeah.
Financially, we can't just, if somebody were to come to work here just for financial compensation, we probably couldn't afford that, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
so at least right now, to be part of our team and our community where we're at, you have to believe in what we do.
Mm.
You have to believe in the greater scope, the greater purpose. Because if you don't, it won't feed you. It won't give you what you need. It won't be able to give you what you need at this point in time, right? And I would say, how did I find that person? Well, we pray, we ask, we have faith, and we trust that they're going to show up. And that is exactly what happened.
Oh, that's
That is
beautiful.
exactly what happened. Yeah.
It's awesome. And now, can she fire you?
Um, I would, yeah, I would like
Yeah.
to believe so. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah.
If put it this way, Tom, and I say it all the time, if the classes I teach in the studio are not bringing people in and the attendance is not there, then I need to be removed. I
Yeah.
need to be removed, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm 100% okay with my path or my career or my future shifting in whatever way it needs to. Um, and I think what often happens in regards to entrepreneurs, we see it all the time, is our identity becomes attached to that business or that role or that career. And in that, we hold ourselves back. We become attached, the business suffers, we suffer. And I always say when somebody calls me a yoga teacher, I say, actually, one of my books coming out, it's going to be I Am Not a Yoga Teacher.
Mm.
Um, because I know that what I have to serve is so much bigger than teaching yoga, that whether it be writing books or speaking or doing work in the corporate world or coaching, that what I serve and what I bring is actually so much bigger than teaching yoga, that if that has to change, well, that has to change, you know?
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's very cool. Now,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your book. My Name is Love. How did you come across, or how did you develop that book?
I first knew I was going to write a book when I was 19 years old, 19, 20 years old. I never knew what it was going to be about. I went to university and I told my dad I was going to study writing and philosophy.
Oh,
And
nice.
and then of course, he was paying for my education. And he said, absolutely not. You're gonna do business. Um, so I did, and you know, a few years after graduating, I started teaching yoga, and look at that. 20 years later, I pretty much write a book on philosophy and love
Yeah.
and life, and so it's so funny how it comes back around. But you know, I tried to write that book several times, and I felt like every time I tried, I wasn't ready until the last time I sat down and tried. It felt like I was ready, and it just started to come out. Everything came out, you know. It was ready to be born. And
Mm.
the reason I wrote the book, if I have to put it in a nutshell, is that, you know, along a human experience, and anyone that is, or the spiritual self-realization world, or whatever you want to call it, personal development world, we talk about a lot of things, and we repost a lot of things, and we read a lot of books, and we say a lot of these things that we know we should be saying, but it seems like asking the question, how does it apply to my life? And embodying or incorporating these things into our life, and acknowledging where we're dropping the ball and where we're not doing that, seems to elude us.
Mhm.
So this book was an effort to present certain realizations or philosophies or ideas and teachings, use experiences from my life that the reader could relate to, and then invite the reader to ask a question: how does this apply to me? Where does
Mhm.
this apply to me? And
Yeah.
it's not as easy. You know, I didn't want to call the book self-help. I still don't want to call the book self-help. But when we think of those things, we think of, all right, how can I make more money? How can I live a healthy life? How can I make all my dreams come true? But how about, how can I get out of my own way and serve something bigger than my needs, my wants, and my desires?
Mm.
So, in other words, for me, it's a dissolving of the idea of self to serve something bigger. You know.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's great. And people, I think people need that as well because we're so focused in the personal development. I'm glad that it's not a self-help book, right? Because it kind of pigeonholes you then into doing things to help us dream better, be better, instead of getting out of our way and being better that way as well. So I think that's a great way of bringing the love back in. Great. So when you were starting the yoga studio, what was that transition like from selling the recycling business, which I think was brilliant too, by the way. That's a great business idea. And so selling that and then opening up the studio, what was that transition like for you?
It was gradual. So there was you know, and before that recycling business, I had a hemp store. And then when I realized I didn't want to run a retail store, it wasn't really what it was. It wasn't really having the impact I wanted it to have. You see, this wasn't a hemp shop or a head shop. It was a hemp shop, not a head shop.
Okay.
So it wasn't about hemp in the idea of smoking or CBD or THC. It was about fibers, clothes, cosmetics, and the environmental use or the
Right.
environmental contribution of cannabis sativa. And then after I ran that for 7 years, and I began to realize, well, okay, this is no longer having the environmental impact or sustainability impact I wanted to have. It now has just become a retail store.
Mm,
Um, so I think before I closed that store, I started teaching yoga.
okay.
And when I started teaching yoga, I realized that that was what I wanted to do more of, because I recognized that we could not have a world that where we lived in peace and harmony if the individuals of that world are not at peace and harmony with themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
decided that I wanted to shift with that kind of direction. And it's so funny. I remember the day I pulled into my driveway and I got out. I tell this story in my book. And I got out of my truck and I smelled the diesel fumes. And I decided in that moment, it's almost like I got a download that said I was going to convert my vehicle to run on waste cooking oil. So I went to Colorado. I learned how to convert a truck to run on waste cooking oil and how to make biodiesel.
Okay.
And then my intention was just to do it for my truck. And when I came back home, I realized that all the waste cooking oil was just being poured down the drain. And that people were even being paid to take it to dump. It's like, well, hold on, there's an opportunity here. So that's when I really got into expanding and building that business. But that was never my initial intention. As I followed my heart, the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah.
I think after a few years of running that business and being successful, I began to feel the weight of because it very much became a corporate life, the weight of that, and I felt very strained in the management of my staff because they became like family for me, and that emotional weight on me, trying to bridge that gap of heart-led profitability. I realized that it was not something I could shoulder, and that if the business needed to go where it needed to go, it needed more of that. So I actually I was teaching yoga while I built that business. And what happened is when I sold that business, I was able to build a house, and pretty much all that money was gone. And but now I could comfortably direct all my energy into building this yoga studio and community that I knew, at least at first financially, would not really give me what I was hoping for, but at least I had somewhere to live, so I could direct my energy to it regardless. So it kind of gave me somewhat of financial freedom, so I could at least give something all my energy and my love without it having to give me back financially right away. So it was a transition, and it still is a transition.
Business in general it's always a new day, right? Never the same thing, which is what I love about business. It's always cool. So Troy, how can people learn more about you, your speaking, the books, even the yoga studio?
Yeah, well, they can find me at troyhadeed.com. And of course, my book is also available on Amazon.com. They could find it there. I am on all social media platforms. Instagram is my most preferred. And if they want to support our yoga studio or do yoga online with us from Trinidad, they could go to Beyond Yoga TV or beyondyogatrinidad.com.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's they're very cool.
Yeah. And the first 30 days is free, so they could sign up and check it out. Join us live in Trinidad. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, that sounds like a great global community as well.
Yeah.
Well, Troy, thank you so much for sharing your insights today and sharing your story. I really appreciate you taking that time to do that, and I know our listeners really appreciate you as well.
Yeah. Same, and thanks for having me. And I don't think, Tom, I think a lot of the time listeners don't always realize the amount of work it takes to have a podcast and cultivate a podcast, and the persistence and the resilience. So I just want to say to you, thank you for having me and what you do.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today as well. I really appreciate it. I know Troy really appreciates you tuning in as well. And make sure that you're checking out everything that he's doing. We'll provide all of that down in the show notes. So make sure you're checking that out, clicking around. And I believe there's even a link there to his book, an audio version of his book. So make sure you're downloading that as well. And if you could do me a favor, and that is to share the show with a friend or a family member that could use some of that information that we shared today. Until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.